Imagine a treasure so powerful that kings were willing to destroy entire civilizations just to touch a place where walls of solid gold stretched 90 feet into the sky, where the most sacred object on earth, the Ark of the Covenant, rested under the wings of golden angel. This place was real. It was the Temple of Solomon, and one man who called himself a god burned it to the ground. What happened next shocked the ancient world and changed history forever. Before we dive in, hit the like button and subscribe for more cinematic stories from history. Now, prepare yourself because this story will give you chills. It took Solomon 7 years to build a temple that made every king in the ancient world envy Israel. It wasn't just a place of worship. It was a monument of extreme wealth. The walls were covered with pure, solid gold, not thin sheet. Entire plates hammered over the finest cedar wood from Lebanon. Inside, 2 massive golden cherubim stood over 14 feet tall, guarding the Ark of the Covenant. Everything, altars, the lamps, the cups, the bowl, was made of gold. Historians estimate that the gold of the temple alone would be worth billions of dollars today. Travelers approaching Jerusalem had to shield their eyes because the sun reflected like fire from its golden wall. For 400 years, that temple stood as a symbol of God's presence on earth, a place so sacred that nations feared even thinking about it. And that wasn't the end. 8 years later, Zedekiah foolishly rebelled too, convinced Egypt would help him. He was wrong. Nebuchadnezzar returned, angrier than ever. This time, there would be no mercy. In 588 BC, the greatest siege in Jerusalem's history began. The Babylonians surrounded the city with a second wall, trapping everyone inside. No food, no water, no escape. Days turned into weeks, months into years. Jeremiah 52 describes a horror. People ate leather and grass, then rats and dead birds. Finally, the unthinkable. Some mothers cooked their own children to survive. The city became a cemetery of starvation and disease. After 2.5 years, the walls finally cracked. On July the treasures of the temple were paraded through the streets of Babylon as symbols of victory. Nebuchadnezzar bragged that even the God of Israel could not protect his own house. But history wasn't over yet. For decades, the sacred objects sat locked in Babylon, like museum trophies. Until one night, years later, Nebuchadnezzar's grandson Belshazzar committed a final act of blasphemy. At a drunken palace feast, he took the gold cups from the temple of God and used them to drink wine for his pagan gods. That very night, a mysterious hand appeared from nowhere and wrote a message on the wall. Mean Tekel Parson. Daniel interpreted it. God had weighed the kingdom and it was finished. That same night, the Persian army invaded and killed Belshazzar. Babylon fell. The new Persian king, Cyrus the Great, had a different policy. Instead of stealing holy objects, he returned them to their original nations, exactly 70 years after the destruction of Jerusalem. Just as the prophet Jeremiah had foretold, the sacred treasures were sent back to their rightful place. The Jews returned home and rebuilt the temple. Worship was restored. What looked like total defeat was part of a divine plan of discipline and restoration. If you believe history proves that no empire can defeat God, hit the like button and share this video. Subscribe for more legendary true stories from history. And tell me in the comments, which ancient civilization should we cover next? Now, click the video on the screen to discover the greatest mysterious structures in the Bible that even modern experts still can't explain. See you there.